Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today I'm going to give my review of AEW's Dynamite episode 300. Starting off tonight, we got Adam Page. Adam Page comes out to the ring, grabs a microphone. Page says that he made a promise that he will walk out of All In with the World Championship. Page then talks more about All In. Page says that he wants to up the ante and have this match against Moxley as a Texas death match at All In. After that, Jon Moxley is here. He walks out to the ring, grabs a microphone. Moxley says that everything is on the line for Page in this matchup, including his career and his life. Moxley tells Page that he does not want a Texas death match, that he does not want this. He doesn't want to be a world champion. Page then smacks Moxley. Moxley then goes after Page. Marina then gets involved. She slaps Page multiple times in the middle of the ring. Death Riders are here. They attack Adam Page. Samoa Joe is here as well. Shafir then goes after Page with a briefcase, but Page stops Marina Shafir, and then he grabs the briefcase. Page grabs a microphone again, says that he wants the Texas death match, and that he has something that Jon Moxley wants. Moxley then gives Page the match. Page then says, earlier in the back and forth banter between Moxley and Page, Page says, well, you wonder how crazy I can get. Marina Shafir was still in the middle of the ring. Page then goes to the outside of the ring, sets up for a buckshot lariat, ends up hitting the lariat on Marina Shafir, leaving Marina Shafir pretty much helpless in the middle of the ring. And it looks like we will, in fact, get Adam Page versus Jon Moxley at All In a Texas death match. Couple things I want to talk about with this matchup, man, especially this segment that they have with here between Page and Moxley. This was something to me where, number one, it intensified the build leading up to this matchup. I'm very excited for this matchup between Page and Moxley for the AEW World title. Now we get the stipulation of a Texas death match, a match that is pretty much right in the wheelhouse for Adam Page. But this also opens up a broader horizon of what really can happen during this matchup. And what I mean by that is, with this being a Texas death match, that means there is no disqualification. You know, anything can be involved and anybody can be involved in this matchup. Now, a lot of people are saying that this matchup could end up actually being almost similar to what happened with Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, where you get a lot of people involved in this match, some possible returns. You know, we could see the return of Pac being involved. We had not seen Pac in AEW for quite some time. I believe he's dealing with some visa issues. He might be at All In to help facilitate Jon Moxley retaining the AEW World title. We might see Adam Copeland or anybody that the Death Riders have attacked in the past might come out to actually help Adam Page somehow get the win over Jon Moxley and secure the AEW World title. So this can open up a broader horizon of what could possibly go down in this matchup now that this match is a Texas death match. So it's gonna be crazy, man. I'm enjoying the build. I think this segment here that happened last night was one of the best parts of the show. I also don't think that the show last night was that bad. We'll talk more about that towards the end of the podcast. But I was all for the opening of last night's show. This promo, this segment back and forth here between Page and Moxley. We get the announcement of All In. The All In match taking place between Page and Moxley now got intensified now that Page wants a Texas death match, and that match now is official for All In. Moving on from that, we got a TBS title matchup. It is Mercedes Moné defending the TBS title against Mina Shirakawa. The match itself, I thought it was a good match, man. It was a back and forth matchup with Mercedes Moné keeping the pace of the match. Moné hits a Meteora on Mina Shirakawa, followed by Moné applying a statement maker on Mina, but the hold is broken. Moné then hits a Meteora off the apron, taking out Mina Shirakawa ringside. Moné and Mina Shirakawa both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Mina applying a figure four leg lock on Moné, but the hold is broken. Mina then hits a glamorous driver on Moné for a near fall, followed by a running knee for a near fall. After the running knee, Moné ends up hitting a roll-up somehow on Mina Shirakawa, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match and still TBS champion is Mercedes Moné. After the match, Moné then attacks Mina, and Moné also goes after Toni Storm. Moving on from that, we have a Fatal 4-Way matchup for the number 2 spot in the Casino Battle Royal that takes place at All In. We got MJF taking on AR Fox versus Anthony Bowens versus Brody King. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup with everybody involved, with King keeping the pace of the match. MJF then hits King with a chair shot. AR Fox then hits a 450 for a near fall at the top rope. MJF then hits a hammerlock DDT in the middle of the ring, followed by a salt of the earth that he applied in the middle of the ring. And your winner of the match, and moving on to the Casino Battle Royal at All In, is MJF. After the match, we have Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey attacking Lashley and Benjamin, but the Hurt Syndicate somehow fight them off multiple times, leaving them in the middle of the ring. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's a six-man tag team matchup. It is the Young Bucks and Takeshita teaming up to take on Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, and Bandito. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with the Bucks and Takeshita keeping the pace of the match. Takeshita then hits a Blue Thunder Bomb in the middle of the ring, followed by a pump-up power bomb that was absolutely brutal. Bandito then hits an Avalanche fall-away slam off the top rope. Takeshita then hits a Raging Fire in the middle of the ring, pins for the 3. And your winners of the match are the Young Bucks and Takeshita. After the match, Ospreay and Swerve then attack the Young Bucks. Swerve grabs a microphone and says that he's still waiting for an answer for their match at All In. Swerve then wants the Bucks to put their EVP status on the line. Swerve says that he doesn't want to be EVPs, neither is Ospreay, but he wants Tony Khan to have the power. And he wants the fans to be the EVPs of AEW. Ospreay says that the Bucks beat them at All In, Ospreay and Swerve cannot challenge for the world title for up to 1 year. So some interesting stuff there between Ospreay, Swerve, and the Young Bucks, which I will talk about more at the end of the podcast. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. Speaking of Ospreay and Swerve, we got Ospreay and Swerve teaming up to take on Dralistico and Beast Mortos. Seems like AEW is pushing Beast Mortos as of late, ever since he announced that he was dating Mercedes Moné. So we get this tag team matchup. It was a good match, back and forth matchup between both teams, with Ospreay and Swerve keeping the pace of the match. Swerve quickly hits a rolling flatliner in the middle of the ring, followed by Ospreay hitting a springboard forearm. After the flatliner and the springboard forearm, we have Dralistico hitting a springboard destroyer, followed by Ospreay hitting a Styles Clash in the middle of the ring. Swerve then finishes up by hitting a house call in the middle of the ring, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland. Hats off to Ospreay and Swerve for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our main event of AEW's Dynamite episode 300. It is Okada taking on Kota Ibushi. I thought this was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Okada and Ibushi, with Okada keeping the pace of the match. Okada goes to the top rope, hits an elbow drop, landing on Ibushi. Ibushi gets up, hits an Avalanche Tiger Driver on Okada for a near fall. Okada, though, hits his signature Rainmaker on Ibushi, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Okada. After the match, Okada, Rocky Romero, and Don Callis and Lance Archer attack Ibushi, and all of a sudden Omega's music hits. He finally returns to save Kota Ibushi. Some interesting stuff there from Kenny Omega. Couple things I want to talk about, man, when it pertains to last night's Dynamite before I get the hell up out of here. Number one, this was not a bad show. I think a lot of people, you have Tony Khan sitting here saying that this is probably the best that AEW has been in quite some time. Me personally, I think that's some bullshit. I'm not sitting here saying that AEW is what it once was in the first 3 years of its existence. No, not even close. But what I will say is this: Tony Khan has a tendency where when these shows have importance, or they're special shows, Tony Khan does go above and beyond to put on a really good show for an episode of Dynamite or a special event that has some kind of significance for AEW. Like the 300th episode that happened last night. We have a special episode of Collision coming up as well. So Tony Khan tries to do what he can to give the fans a really good show for these significant events. And he did very well last night. So let's look at the opening of the show. We have Adam Page. Obviously Adam Page has had some heat with Jon Moxley as well as the Death Riders. They got that high-profile matchup for the AEW World title at this year's All In, which is going to be a great match. And then we get the announcement from Adam Page that he wants to raise the stakes, if you will, and have this match as a Texas death match that seemingly seems like it would be right in Adam Page's wheelhouse for this matchup against Jon Moxley. But like I said before, it opens up a lot more doors for this matchup. Me personally, even before this, Texas Death match was announced as stipulation, I didn't think it was going to go down as a normal match. You're going to see the Death Rider somehow involved in that matchup, and you're going to see what happens from Adam Page's side. Is someone going to come out and save Adam Page from the Death Riders during the matchup that he has with Jon Moxley. So now that we get the announcement that is a Texas death match, no disqualification, you're going to get people involved in this matchup, whether it be the Death Riders or somebody coming out to help Adam Page. And with the stipulation that we have now, there's no disqualification. And once this was announced, a lot of people were going back to what WWE has done at WrestleMania, specifically when Cody Rhodes was going after Roman Reigns for the Universal title, where you had Solo Sikoa involved, you had John Cena involved, you had Dwayne The Rock Johnson involved. You had a lot of different players involved in that matchup, and ultimately Cody got the win and, finished his story and became, Universal Champion. A lot of people are saying that this matchup here between Page and Moxley could have a lot of similarities to what we've seen between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. And to be honest with you, with the new stipulation, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked. We also had the Casino Battle Royal where the winner will go on and pretty much have a briefcase or a contract to challenge for the AEW World title. So that can also be something that, people need to pay attention to as far as who's going to win the Casino Battle Royal. But I will say this, man, the build between Page and Jon Moxley, to me, has not been that bad. Could it be better? Sure. And I think they, finally put their foot on the gas pedal last night on Dynamite to really intensify the story. We've seen Page hit a buckshot lariat on Marina Shafir. We saw at one moment Page actually holding the briefcase that we all believe that has the AEW World title in it. So, again, this is starting to really intensify. We got about 10 days to get to AEW's All In. So obviously next week is going to be the go home show leading into All In. So they're going to pull out all the punches. And All In is AEW's biggest show of the year. It is their WrestleMania. And for what it's worth, man, a lot of people, including myself, are anticipating this matchup here between Adam Page and Jon Moxley. The other thing I want to talk about is Mercedes Moné and Mina Shirakawa. I know a lot of people were actually hopeful that Mina was actually going to win that match and walk out of Dynamite 300 with the TBS Championship. I didn't see that happening. My thing is, and I'm not the only one that's, has been saying this, a lot of people have vented their frustrations with Mercedes Moné, myself included. I still stand on business with that. I think she's in business for herself. I think she's trying to do whatever she can to, raise her stock to get back to WWE's good graces and make the money and get her back to WWE. I think she's doing everything in her power to do so. I don't think she's sticking around AEW for too much longer. I think once her contract comes up, you better believe that she will be in contract talks with WWE at that point. She's trying to do whatever she can to raise her stock so she can get the hell out of AEW. For those people that had the belief that Mina Shirakawa was going to beat Mercedes Moné for the TBS title, I don't know what to tell you, man. She's not losing. And to be honest with you, I don't even see her losing it All In. I just don't. Tony Khan has a lot of belief behind her, and he's pretty much building that entire women's division around Mercedes Moné. And really, for what it's worth, that matchup between Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné, it's a 50-50 double-edged sword, to be honest with you, because on one side of the coin, you can look at Toni Storm beat Mercedes Moné, and Moné takes a loss. And we have Toni Storm still AEW World Champion, and she'll go on to defend the title against somebody else that's probably not Mercedes Moné. You look at the other side of the coin where Mercedes Moné is already current TBS champion, now walking into All In, walking out AEW's women's champion. She's taking that entire division by hostage. She holds the 2 championship titles alone just for the entire women's division for AEW. So it could be something that can also be very crucial for AEW. I said the same thing as far as the AEW World title with Jon Moxley holding it. We haven't seen the goddamn title since October, man, at Wrestle Dream last year in October. It's been stuck and locked away in a briefcase all this time. So, and it doesn't really benefit AEW at all. I think it would be better to see that title more prevalent on television, possibly even defended on an AEW Dynamite episode. It's something that I think AEW desperately needs to get back to bring a little bit more limelight back into the company and, get some more spotlight on AEW. But I feel like it's going to be the same thing with Mercedes Moné and Toni Storm. I just think if Mercedes walks in, walks out, AEW's World Champion or Women's World Champion, you're holding the women's locker room by hostage. You know what I mean? Because now you have to figure, okay, well, Mercedes Moné is not taking an L, and she's going to walk in All In, possibly beat Toni Storm for the AEW Women's Championship. How long is it going to be until Mercedes Moné actually takes an L and pretty much relinquishes these, the AEW Women's Championship as well as the TBS Championship? So, it also could hurt the fact that a lot of people don't want to work with Mercedes Moné because when you go up against her 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose. So, like I said, my standpoint with Mercedes is the same. I think she's in business for herself, and she's just trying to raise her stock. So when the time comes that her contract comes up with an AEW, she's going to try to do everything she can in her power to convince WWE to give her the money and bring her over back to WWE. I can totally see her going back to WWE and bringing back the Sasha Banks character, and, the rest is history. But I can totally see that happening, to be honest. The other thing I want to talk about is the Hurt Syndicate and the Speedball Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight situation. I'm going to be honest, man. For one, I think Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey are really good superstars for AEW. I'm not sitting here saying they're trash or anything else like that, but when you look at the fact of them going up against the Hurt Syndicate, man, they look like ultimate jobbers, to be honest with you. I mean, they got their ass whipped last night multiple times by Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. And, now we have the situation where we're probably going into All In, where the Hurt Syndicate will defend those AEW World Tag Team titles against Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey. The AEW Tag Team division right now is fucking abysmal at this point. It's bad. It's really bad. And I don't know if they're looking to bring in other tag teams. I mean, you got the Authors of Pain that are current free agents, or looking into bringing other tag teams in from the indies. I don't know. But the tag team division in AEW is fucking awful. I mean, it's bad. I mean, to be honest with you, man, you look at the makeshift tag team of Speedball Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight. Both these guys are singles competitors, and they formed this tag team. And this tag team is just not working. It's just not. And to be honest with you, if this match is going to go down at All In, it's just, I don't know, man. I mean, they got their ass beat last night on Dynamite multiple times by the Hurt Syndicate. I mean, Lashley was beating the shit out of Speedball Mike Bailey. So to see, them defend these titles against these two guys after what they did last night, it's just like, man, no. And I said the same shit about the tag team division last week when you got someone like Max Caster and Anthony Bowens that are both on a singles run, and it's really not panning out for either one of these guys. You saw Anthony Bowens in a Fatal 4-Way last night to have the number 2 spot in the Casino Battle Royal, and he was unsuccessful. He didn't secure that number 2 spot. You got Max Caster having these random open challenges on Collision that mean jack shit. I understand that some people want to do their own thing. And, some tag teams want to split up and do their own things. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And I gave examples about that. I mean, you look at Santana and Ortiz. They're one of the best tag teams of all time. And then we had the split up from Santana and Ortiz. Santana's going on and do his own thing and working with TNA and working on the indies, and it's really paying off for Santana. Now, Ortiz, yeah, he's injured, but I feel like a singles run for Ortiz is really not going to pan out all that well for Ortiz. And this goes back to even tag teams back in the day, bro. I said the same thing about the Steiners. The Steiners split up, and Scott did his own thing, and it really benefited Scott there for a little while, where Rick Steiner, it did nothing good for Rick at all. You look at other tag teams as well, man. I mean, it's like I said, sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes the tag teams should have stayed tag teams. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles, man. I think Anthony Bowens and Max Caster are the definition of that. They need to go back to the Acclaimed. Because honestly, for what it's worth, if they want to have a career or a decent career, man, they need to go back to the Acclaimed. And, have Billy Gunn at the forefront of that, and, we get back to the Acclaimed. We're also missing the Guns. Austin and Colton, you know what I mean? Like, we need them back in the fold. I don't know if they're injured or what, but we need the Guns back. Jay White's out. We have Juice Robinson's been out dealing with injury as well. So, like, they need to revamp this tag team division. This tag team division is just shit. FTR, they're dealing with the Outrunners. Let's put FTR back in the conversation for the AEW tag team titles. I would not mind whatsoever to see FTR versus the Hurt Syndicate. You know what I mean? Now we got FTR versus the Outrunners. We need FTR back in the title scene. There's also rumors and speculation of Edge and Christian reuniting. Let's make it happen. Because at this point, Copeland, he's injured. They're waiting to bring him back into the fold. Christian Cage is still trying to tie up things with the Patriarchy and Nick Wayne. But we need something for the tag team division to bring a little spotlight back to it. Let's get the Young Bucks back in the conversation for AEW tag team titles. Something. You know what I mean? You already lost... you lost Penta, you lost Phoenix, the Lucha Bros. They were one of your best tag teams on the entire division. They're gone. They're having singles runs now on WWE. One's wrestling for SmackDown, one's wrestling for Monday Night Raw. So, you lost the Lucha Bros. You had the opportunity at one time to bring in the Motor City Machine Guns with Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. They said no, and then ended up going over to WWE and pretty much got fast-tracked to the, SmackDown Tag Team titles. So, I mean, again, you guys are losing opportunities on bringing tag teams into this company, and that's why if this match is going to be announced, which most likely it will, Hurt Syndicate versus, Speedball Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight, I just, from what we saw last night, I feel like Lashley and Benjamin are just going to walk through these guys. They made those guys look like jobbers last night. For what they did. They beat the shit out of both those guys. And both those guys are most likely going to get a title opportunity because there is literally nobody else left to challenge them. You got Big Bill and Brian Keith. I mean, come on, bro. We already went down that road. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing else left in the tag team division that's actually appealing enough to be like, you know what? I can see this tag team beating the Hurt Syndicate, Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. I don't see Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey beating the Hurt Syndicate, and they shouldn't, to be honest. Right now, the Hurt Syndicate is one of the best things going right now on all of AEW television. But I know damn well they're going to want a match for All In. It's the biggest show of the year for AEW. So most likely this match will be booked at All In. So we'll see how that plays out. We also get the Young Bucks and Ospreay and Swerve. They have a segment. Now, this is the other thing that I really want to talk about because this has so many implications leading into All In that it's unreal. And the huge elephant in the room. When you saw Will and Ospreay and Swerve come out to attack the Young Bucks, Swerve grabs a microphone. He wants an answer from the Young Bucks as far as if they will actually give them a match at All In, tag team matchup, Young Bucks versus Swerve and Ospreay. Swerve and Ospreay want to answer. And originally, Matt Jackson told him no. There's nothing that's really worth their while to have this matchup. And then you see Ospreay in the ring with Swerve. He goes over to Swerve, whispers something in Swerve's ear, and then Swerve kind of looks at Ospreay like, are you serious? We're not doing that. Like, Swerve looked legitimately pissed off. And then Ospreay grabbed the microphone and says, you know what, here's something that might actually pique your interest to have this match with us, and that is if the Young Bucks beat them at All In, Swerve Strickland and Ospreay, both of them, cannot challenge for the world title for up to 1 year. This is a double-edged sword as well. This is a big deal. Now, on one side of the coin, you have two of the biggest stars, two of the biggest building blocks for the future of AEW, willing to sacrifice an opportunity to be on the main event scene or challenge for the world title for up to 1 year. 365 days where they will not be in the main event scene or challenge for the world title. But on the same note of that, it gives opportunities for other superstars on a bloated roster, the other opportunities to actually raise their stock in AEW and actually go after the AEW World title. So that's also appealing as well. Can create new storylines and get other superstars actually in the main event scene that we haven't seen yet in the main event scene. The downplay of this is how is this going to play out? Right now on paper, with the announcement that was made last night from Ospreay, you would almost seem that it's very predictable that the Young Bucks will walk in All In and walk out All In the winners of this matchup, because the Young Bucks are only going to lose their EVP status if they decide to lose, if they end up losing this matchup against Ospreay and Swerve. I don't see them doing that, because if you look at the narrative of the Young Bucks, the EVP is their entire morale, if you will, right now in AEW. Their entrance music, their theme, how they carry themselves, the promos, everything they've been doing has a lot of resemblance to their EVP status. So, could they change it? Sure. I mentioned it multiple times about the Young Bucks, and maybe they need to go back to what brought them to the dance and be the Young Bucks that we all knew of back in the day. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But right now, with what they've been doing and being heels and everything else like that, and being the EVPs, a lot of things that they do in AEW is wrapped around that EVP status. So I don't know how that's really going to pan out. But could I see them losing the opportunity? Yeah, because this is going to set up a lot more storylines than people actually think. This could be a little bit of a long-term booking situation for Tony Khan and AEW, where a lot of wild cards are in this, new storylines, and etc. For example, if Ospreay and Swerve end up losing against the Young Bucks at All In, if we go back a couple weeks ago, when Ospreay and Swerve had words, and Ospreay said that he was going to help Paige out, but then Swerve said he will never, ever help, Paige out at all. Could this be something where Swerve gets pissed off that they lost this matchup? And if, my thing is for him, the mindset would be, well, if I can't win the title and I can't go after that title for the year, I damn sure is not going to have Adam Page win this title against Jon Moxley. And because now that matchup between Moxley and Page is a Texas death match, now we get Swerve coming out to the ring because there's no disqualification and help Jon Moxley beat Swerve, or help Jon Moxley beat Adam Page for Moxley to retain the AEW World title, and then we get Swerve turning heel. And then we had that unfinished business here between Swerve Strickland and Adam Page that can carry on possibly for another 6 months to a year. So there's that storyline there. You also had to look at the narrative of the Casino Battle Royal that's also taking place the same day as All In, where the winner of that would possibly get a contract or a briefcase to challenge and cash in, if you will, for the AEW World Championship. So do we get something where it's MJF cashing in, or do we get the return of Darby Allin? And Darby Allin comes in after Jon Moxley beats Adam Page, and then we see Darby Allin that he won the Casino Battle Royal. He comes out in the main event, he cashes in, he beats Jon Moxley, and then Darby Allin is the guy that walks out of All In AEW World Champion. That's also a possibility, because that also opens up another storyline too. Like, okay, well, we have MJF. MJF is trying to go back after the Triple B. Darby Allin and MJF have some unfinished business as well. I mean, it opens up a lot more avenues, honestly, if Ospreay and Swerve actually take the L in the matchup against the Young Bucks at All In. It really does. It opens up a lot more doors, a lot more speculation, a lot more possibilities for good storylines. You know, we can also see, because there's also a no disqualification match, we can also see Jack Perry return and get involved in this matchup, allowing Jon Moxley to beat Adam Page. And Moxley walks out AEW World Champion with the helps of Jack Perry, and Jack Perry reunites himself with the Elite. So, again, it opens up a lot of doors, man, on really what can happen at All In. And to be honest with you, the wild card in all this is actually the matchup here between the Young Bucks, Ospreay, and Swerve, because it's going to open up a lot more doors throughout the rest of the night and the foreseeable future for AEW. Because, like I said, if Ospreay and Swerve do lose, they will not be able to challenge. Either one of them will challenge for the AEW World title for up to 1 year. So it's going to open up a lot more doors for other talent that on talent roster that's already bloated as it is, the opportunity to get in the main event spot and actually challenge for the AEW World title. Now, again, it also could be very negative where Jon Moxley, nothing happens. Moxley beats Adam Page, and Moxley walks out still AEW World Champion. And then we have to wait till Wrestle Dream in October where Darby Allin challenges Jon Moxley for the AEW World title. That's also a very high probability or a possibility that could happen. But like I said, a lot of people are thinking this is going to be a Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns situation where we're going to have different superstars involved in this matchup, because what's at stake is the AEW World Championship and the end of Jon Moxley and the Death Riders. There's a lot at stake for this matchup. It's a very high-profile matchup and pretty much could change a lot for AEW. This, my thing is with All In, and I've said this multiple times about AEW, what happens at All In and what takes place at All In after we are done with All In could actually be the reset button that AEW actually needs to revamp themselves a little bit and get a little bit more eyeballs on the product. You know what I mean? We're still waiting to see Darby Allin. There's so many injured talent as well. Like I said, we got Jay White injured. We have Juice Robinson. We haven't seen Orange Cassidy. We haven't seen Pac. So, I mean, again, this is going to open up a lot more doors once we get past All In. We could see some of these people possibly returning for the Casino Battle Royal, like Orange Cassidy or Jay White or Juice Robinson. We don't know. I mean, anything is up in the air at this point. So, again, it's one of those things where it's going to be very intriguing to see how these storylines play out leading into All In. And honestly, for me, the wild card match would be the tag team matchup at All In between the Young Bucks, Ospreay, and Swerve. To be honest with you, I mean, Swerve can come into this main event match with Page and Jon Moxley and fuck everything up. Cost Page the match, Swerve turns heel, and then we get this unfinished business between Page and Swerve because, like I said, the storyline's in itself. Ospreay pretty much threw Swerve underneath the bus and said, well, if we can't beat the Young Bucks, we won't challenge for the AEW World title for up to 1 year. You can see Swerve was, pissed off and not on the same page as Ospreay, even though Ospreay was willing to sacrifice everything just to have this matchup. 2, if they go into this matchup and somehow Ospreay and Swerve are unsuccessful in this match, well, they don't get a title shot for 1 year. So that's going to rub Swerve Strickland the wrong way, and then he probably will get pissed off and probably say, you know what, well, if I can't get a title opportunity for this year, there ain't no way in hell I'm going to have Adam Page my world champion, so I'm going to do everything in my power to cost him the AEW World Championship, and we're going to see Swerve Strickland turn heel. And to be honest with you, I can see it happen. I can totally see it happen. and they need it. I mean, for what it's worth, and for those people who are like, oh, I don't want to see another Adam Page and Swerve match, why? Why? Those guys tore the house down when those guys were beefing, to be honest with you. And it's already been kind of speculated that Swerve might end up turning heel. So let's do it, man. Let's run with it and see where it goes. Because like I said, I mean, I think for what it's worth, I think if they lose that matchup against the Young Bucks, it just opens up a lot more doors for storylines and future bookings for AEW. And it will make the show very intriguing after what takes place at All In. So, again, this could be something that could be very, very beneficial for AEW if they go that route. You know, you also have Darby Allin, who's also a wild card in this. Is Darby going to be a part of the Casino Battle Royal? He wins it. Who knows? He sees what happens at the main event, sees that, Jon Moxley winning the AEW World title and retaining it. And then we see Darby Allin come out and cash in. And maybe Darby Allin's the guy that beats Jon Moxley at All In, and then we have Darby Allin walking out of All In, AEW World Champion. Completely demolishing everything that Jon Moxley has done up to this point, especially with the Death Riders. You know what I mean? And that's, honestly, at this point, that is the main vocal point of this entire thing, is the fact that people are done seeing Jon Moxley AEW World Champion, and we're done with the Death Riders bullshit that is ultimately crippling this company from within. And people are tired of seeing it, so seeing what's going on with the Death Riders. So now we get the opportunity, possibly, if Adam Page could be that guy, that savior, to save AEW from the bullshit from Jon Moxley and the Death Riders. So it's going to be very telling. It's going to be very telling. I thought, when this was announced last night from Ospreay, I thought it was very intriguing. It definitely raised the stakes in this matchup. There could be more things added to this matchup. It could be a ladder match. We don't know. It could be a tornado tag, just to kind of spice it up a little bit more. And I'm all for it. I think this tag team matchup is going to tear the house down. And I think a lot of people are going to have their eyeballs set for this matchup, because I think it has implications for what's to take place in the main event of All In between Adam Page and Jon Moxley. And we're going to see how this plays out. I think it's going to be very, very intriguing matchup to see between the Young Bucks, Ospreay, and Swerve. Other thing I want to quickly talk about as well is, like I mentioned earlier, Tony Khan has a tendency to, really put a lot more focus onto these special, significant shows. And I think it was a good show, man. I think for the people out there that are complaining about this show, from last night, don't watch the show, bro. I mean, honestly, you take the wins when you can, and you take the W's as they come along. And I'm going to take this as a win. This was a really good show. I like the story progression with Adam Page and Jon Moxley. It's starting to get better. I mean, we're 10 days out from All In. So, next week, obviously, is the go-home show leading into All In. But that story is starting to really intensify here between Page and Moxley. We get the announcement of the Texas Death Match added to the Jon Moxley-Adam Page match. We also have Will Ospreay making the huge announcement that, they're going to have this match with the Young Bucks, but if they lose, Swerve and Ospreay will not be able to challenge for the AEW World title for up to 1 year. It's a big, big risk to take against a tag team that is one of the best tag teams in the world with the Young Bucks. So, we're going to see what happens. We're definitely going to see what happens. We have Toni Storm, Mina Shirakawa, with Monet defending the TBS title against Mina Shirakawa. Monet was successful. She retained the TBS title, and she's going in to All In to challenge Toni Storm for the AEW Women's Championship. We also have that as well. So there's going to be more matches announced. Like I said, if I had to predict, I would probably say the Hurt Syndicate will defend the AEW Tag Team titles against Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey. But after what I saw last night, man, I just don't see Lashley or Shelton Benjamin losing those titles. I just don't. I mean, like I said, man, they beat the shit out of Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey last night. And they made them look like a bunch of jobbers. So I don't really see. I'd be very shocked if the Hurt Syndicate end up dropping the AEW Tag Team Championships. But like I said, man, it's going to be a very intriguing show leading up to All In. All In's going to be insane. We got the Casino Battle Royal where the winner of that will challenge for the AEW World title. This could also be some returns taking place at All In. Jay White, Juice Robinson. We can also see the return of Adam Copeland, maybe. Darby Allin could also be a part of the Casino Battle Royal as well. So we're going to see how this plays out, man. I think this year's All In is going to be very, very telling. I'm not going to sit here and say it might be the best All In. It could be the worst All In. But we're going to see how it plays out. I know some people were pissed off with All In because they're only selling about 20,000 tickets compared to what they've done last year and the years prior to that when they had, 40, 50, 60,000 tickets sold or whatever have you. So, obviously things have changed for AEW and maybe not necessarily in the good way, but we're going to see what happens, man. Maybe this is something where, like I said, once we get past All In, they hit the reset button and we get back to what we all know and we all fell in love with AEW. And maybe this is the reset button that AEW desperately needs to have after All In. So we're going to see what happens, man. But with that being said, this is my review of AEW's Dynamite. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.